Friends, how are you? Hope you are doing well. So today we are going to discuss about a new topic of construction environmental management and its planning. So when we are developing the construction environmental management plan, first we need to understand what exactly the construction environmental management plan is and what are the objectives of this construction environmental management plan. So the CEMP, construction environment management plan, it's a kind of site specific plan which is developed to ensure that appropriate environmental management practices are being followed during the construction phase of any project. And we can say the objective of this CEMP is that based on the aspects of the project, the authorities will decide whether a proponent is required to submit a CEMP or not. And the intention of the CEMP is, like we can say, provide effective site specific and implementable procedures and mitigation measures to monitor and control the environmental impacts throughout the construction phase of the project, and ensure that the construction activities do not adversely impact amenities to traffic or the environment in the surrounding area. So specifically the CEMP ensures the environmental impacts which are being identified during the previously performed environmental studies, like environmental impact assessments or preliminary environmental reviews, which will be properly managed, and the activities will comply with all applicable environmental rules and regulations. So if no EIA or no PER, preliminary environmental review, was completed for any project, then the CEMP should describe in detail the extent to which the environmental effects, impacts, and the risk which is existing. So based on the aspects of the project, the authorities will decide whether a CEMP is required to be submitted or not submitted actually. So the main goals of CEMP are specifically, when we can say, to specify the roles and responsibilities of personnel involved in all aspects of the construction activities, identify the potential environmental impacts and mitigation measures that will be used to address them, and establishing the procedures for audit, monitoring, inspections, and specifying the trainings, record keeping, and documentation requirements for the project, the construction project. So a CEMP is intended for use by all the personnel involved within the construction activities. Therefore, the use of technical terms and graphics should be very clear and understandable to the specialists and non-specialists also. Yep. To prepare or develop any construction environmental management plan, we need to consider certain factors, certain details related to the project. Okay. So what are those factors which we need to keep in mind when we are designing or developing any construction environmental management plan? So for an example, there are certain factors which we need to consider, like we can discuss about the project descriptions, where we include the location, the project, geographical locations, the scope, the boundaries of the projects, the dimensions of the project. We can think about the overall project and planned construction activities. So for that, we need to conduct the environmental baseline studies, the current conditions and sensitive receptors or vulnerability areas. The construction project descriptions are required, the environmental permits, NOCs or licenses are required. Yeah. So we can think about the project schedules and the milestones, so in the project description. Then we talk about the environmental management leadership and commitment. So in this section, we can focus on certain parameters like policy statements for environmental management, the environmental management system requirements and its compliances, like ISO 14001 standards and requirements and their fulfillment or the compliances. We can talk about the roles and responsibilities of the different team members within the organization. So definitely we need to have the approved organization charts. We can talk about the applicable rules and regulations and the requirements which we need to identify, and we need to develop a legal register or legal library for respectable or applicable rules and regulations or requirements. Then we talk about the environmental awareness and trainings, document reviews and the updates, the environmental commitments from the top management or the senior management, and we can say, as environmental management is everybody's responsibility, so commitment is required from each and every member of the team, from the business functions or from the organization. So next we are talking about the coordination with external entities and addressing the complaints. So this comes under the environmental management leadership and commitment part. Then we have next about the environmental impacts, where we are talking about different topics like environmental emissions, like air emissions impacts, for an example dust, gaseous pollutants, particulate matter impacts or odors, nuisance which is being created. And then we talk about the surface water impacts, soil and groundwater impacts. We can think about the ecological impacts, like we can say terrestrial ecological impacts, which can lead to the discharges to the land and can lead to the soil contamination. We can talk about the wildlife impacts, vegetation impacts like flora and fauna impacts. Then we talk about the marine ecological impacts. So when we have discharges to the marine waters, it is affecting the aquatic life and the vegetations there, flora and fauna both. Then we can consider certain factors related to the environmental impact, which is noise and vibrational impacts, traffic impacts, waste management related impacts. In the waste we can consider the solid waste, liquid waste or effluents we can talk, and we can think about the hazardous waste which is being generated in the process itself, and we can consider certain environmental conditions or system related impacts actually. Then next we are talking about the environmental mitigation measures. In this particular topic we can consider certain factors like air quality control plan. So in the mitigation measures we talk about the control actions or control measures. So first start with the air quality control plan, where we apply the dust management principles or gaseous pollutant management or odor management. And then next we talk about the erosion and sediment control plans, soil and groundwater contamination control plan, terrestrial ecological control plans, where we follow the terrestrial ecological management. Then next we are talking about the water quality and marine ecology control plan, wastewater management, marine ecological management, noise and vibration control plans, traffic control plan, waste management control plan. And in the waste management specifically we talk about the minimization, reuse, recycling, solid waste management, liquid waste management, hazardous waste management. We can talk about the asbestos management, ODS, ozone depletion source management, and we talk about the use of the environmental service providers for the waste management. We will be dealing with the waste management practices actually. Then we can think about certain factors like chemical and hazardous material management, the contingency plans, the emergency management plans. We need to identify the certain list of emergency coordinators, their contact details, and the emergency procedures, the drills related to the emergency procedures. Okay, we can go for security plans or infrastructure plans. So these are certain environmental mitigation measures which we can consider here. Then next we are talking about one more section like monitoring and auditing for the environmental management plan or construction environmental management plan. So to monitor the performance or measure the performance, we need to apply certain monitoring techniques like auditing, inspection. So in this monitoring techniques, first of all, let us identify those environmental performance monitoring techniques, the ways how you are going to measure the performance related to the environmental management. Then there are certain reporting requirements related to the performance monitoring for environmental management, where we can consider the incident reports, the periodic or quarterly performance reports, we can say, monitoring compliance and audit reports, environmental checklists, procedures to review inspections, and steps to address the non-compliances for monitoring and auditing actually. Then finally we have management reviews, where the top management is involved in identifying the certain requirements and overseeing the requirements of the environmental management during the construction phase, and to review the performance of environmental management during the construction. So particularly having these meetings quite frequently with the top management and the involved personnel or the team members in this particular management review meetings, where we can consider certain environmental management agendas to be discussed, and certainly during the review we can identify certain gaps for them. We can take certain actions or maybe certain recommendations from the management team, where we can implement those recommended actions actually to improve the continual for having the continual improvement of the environmental management. So this construction environmental management plan is helpful in successfully or effectively managing the environmental management portion in the construction environmental projects or construction project, sorry. So construction project, we can effectively manage the environmental conditions or environmental requirements actually. Thank you very much friends. We will continue our discussion from the next discussion. Thank you.